If you're like me and you watch a lot of content, at some point you're going to be feeling chaotic. And I know I have, whether it's YouTube or for you, it might be TikTok or scrolling the X feed. At some point, it stops feeling good and starts feeling like I need to figure out what the fuck I'm doing. And I know that comes in many forms. People call that doom scrolling. Or you can just, you know, call it a mental health disorder and you just need to check out and get the fuck away from your phone. But one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is that technology is not going to go away. And with AI coming right around the corner, things are just going to get a lot crazier really quick. And you're so addicted to your phone, just like I am, that you're not just going to put it down and become some hippie and realize you never needed a phone to begin with. You're going to keep using the phone. Let's be honest. So we need to figure out as people and humans and people, especially in the 21st century, like what the fuck we are going to do moving forward with what we've got right now, the monstrous internet. Now, I don't think data or information itself is inherently evil, bad, wrong, uh, and something that is really the source of the issue. It's not like an information problem. It's, in my opinion, and I absolutely could be wrong about that, but in my opinion, I believe it to be the inability for us to understand everything that is being thrown our way. Because, growing up with the slow release of all this information over time, it didn't always feel bad. It actually felt pretty good to get new information, novel pieces. When podcasts started coming out, that was great. A different podcast every week, and you started following comedians. And, I became a big comedy fan because of the internet, and I laugh a lot more. I see a lot more tragedy, but it's not the information itself that has caused me to be feeling bad at times. It's when I don't understand what the fuck I'm looking at. Now, for example, if you're like me, you love seeing police footage. I used to love watching cops on the TV. So when, I see on YouTube there's a new police body cam footage with an interesting title, I'm watching that sucker. And, a lot of times there's some sort of a tragic murder or some crazy person screaming. And that type of chaos, if I don't have a way to understand, how someone's behavior can lead to whatever, I'm feeling a little bit chaotic. And if I were to somehow be able to rationalize what I'm seeing, then I believe that I feel a level of peace. And I know this is possible, for example, because I got sucked into the debate culture that's happening right now. A lot of people watch Andrew Wilson debates or Destiny debates or, whoever it is that you like debates. There's just so much debates going on YouTube, especially. And I used to feel pretty chaotic listening to people that I disagreed with. And now, because I've been thinking, I feel like more clearly about things, I have a sense of peace, even if I'm watching a debate that to the debaters gets heated. I'm still able to have some resolve and feel like I can understand both sides. And even if I do prefer one person's arguments over the other, I'm not looking at things in terms of like this, oh, these ideas are dangerous. These ideas should not exist. For example, if you like capitalism and you're listening to a lecture on communism, like running those things through your brain with this perspective of it's evil, it's dangerous, it's poisoning our culture, that, in my opinion, is what's leading to that chaos that you feel on the inside. Because you don't feel that when you're listening to somebody you agree with. You're only usually feeling something like that when it's something that you can't process in a healthy way. So, first of all, is it even possible to process information that you don't like understand. And it really, I don't think that's not processing at all. That's just like, my brain cannot compute. These people must be stupid. These people must be evil, right? Like you start to invent reasons on top of what you're seeing to try and make sense of it. But because those reasons aren't matching up with reality, there's a form of delusion that's going on. And that delusion, because it's not matching up with reality, and at some level, even if you really want to believe a lie you're telling yourself, on some level you know that it's not true. That is what's going to lead to all this chaos. But if you're listening to the communists, let's say, and you think like, understand communism, I understand why people feel this way. I understand why people would be rejecting the capitalistic culture we have. And you begin to have empathy and you begin to process these ideas in a healthy way, then you're not going to be feeling that chaotic state. You can actually categorize and process this information, and it's not going to lead to, a mental health crisis. It's not going to lead to you hating your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends, your parents, whatever, your relatives at Thanksgiving. You're going to be able to engage with people in the world in a much more meaningful and healthy way. So, one of the things I think I want to mention in this video is, what's really helped me do this is realize that ideas themselves are not dangerous. Ideas themselves are also not real. They're real in the sense that we experience ideas, we have the ability to hold ideas in our mind, but they don't actually live in reality necessarily. For example, what is Christianity, right? Well, Christianity is a group of beliefs held by people. It's people that hold the beliefs. What is, conservative? What is Democrat? What is, you name it, whatever cult, whatever, corporatism, the beliefs and values of the company you work for. Like, all those ideas aren't actual concrete things. They're nothing that's going to hurt you. And just because there's ideas that you don't hold doesn't mean that they need to affect you in any negative way at all. So ideas themselves, I believe, should be looked at as valuable and helpful tools for you, especially if you disagree with them, because you want to be able to take in information and learn from it, good and bad. And if you have some resistance to receiving information or listening to somebody because you're writing them off, then you're not going to do much growing as a person. And that level of chaos is not going to go anywhere. You're basically saying, like, I like the chaos, I like the way I think, and I'm going to keep myself right here. Well, let's hope we don't all turn nihilistic if that's the way most of us are behaving. Like, I know for myself, I've definitely reached states of nihilism when I'm not finding the meaning in what I'm looking at, when I'm not finding the meaning in what I'm engaging with, whether it's my own life or YouTube videos, TikTok videos, whatever it may be, the current horrible state of the news. Like, that lack of meaning, that lack of value just renders everything as just BS. It's just like, I'm fucking done with this. So if we are going to move forward in a healthy way in the future, especially as technology increases, especially as the internet gets faster, AI makes things more addicting, technology and iPhones get more and more addicting, we have to become responsible for what we're taking in. We also have to become responsible not just for what we're watching, but how we're processing that information and what we're thinking about as we're doing that. Are we in a state of resistance? Are we in a state of chaos? And we should be asking ourselves, like, why? Why do I feel this way when I listen to someone I disagree with? Why does it hurt me on the inside when I, as an agnostic, listen to an atheist or listen to a very religious person? Like, it doesn't need to feel that way when we're engaging with those ideas. And the more I can reduce that friction with myself and the world, then the more I'm actually able to learn. For example, I used to really hate, religion in general. I came from a Christian household, and I used to think that it was pretty toxic for my parents to have all these beliefs that they were projecting onto me about my salvation and, me going to heaven or hell. And, essentially that for me felt like guilt at the time. And because I felt that level of guilt and sadness from them, I internally was angry. I was very frustrated and I started becoming kind of, uh, negative towards anyone who was religious or very religious. And that prevented me from being able to healthily engage with my parents or engage with people that were religious. And I wanted to be able to change that. I realized that if I was going to have a healthy relationship with my family or religious people, I better start to learn and understand why people think that way. So the more I reduce that friction with, hearing these ideas I didn't believe in, but process them and help use that to my advantage, use that to help understand people, then the better I felt. And so that is what I've feel like over time I've been able to do with everything from politics to the things people find valuable, whether that's money or fame or things like that. If you've seen anything about like the looks maxing community, it can seem really crazy at first, but when you actually listen to the people that hold the beliefs and not see them or see the ideas in a negative light, then you are actually able to learn a lot more about people in the world, be able to categorize wacky ideas, no matter how wacky they may be. You can put them in a healthy context and be able to move forward and grow stronger. And you can actually consume more content because you're not consuming it in a very negative, chaotic way. You're not letting it lead you to places like nihilism or meaninglessness or, confused states. You can actually understand the world more and more. So I'm going to finish my rant off with just saying that the majority of my video is going to be based around this idea that we need to process things in a manner that is respectful to us in our future. The more we can do that as people, the more we don't need to worry about what comes our way, what technology is going to do to us. If we become more resilient to information in general and become more responsible with the tools that we have, then I think there's a lot of hope for humanity. I think that it's honestly a very bright future. And these are the kind of ideas I want to promote. So thank you for listening. My name is John Stabe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.